Wahida, thank you very much for making time. Can we start with your personal journey first? Where were you born, and where did you go to school?
So maybe a little further back than that, Nick.
Yeah.
I'm a first generation South African. My parents, my eldest brother and eldest sister were all born in a small village in India on the banks of the Vashishti River. And my parents came to South Africa in the hope of crafting a better future for themselves and their children. And that is how we ended up in Cape Town. I went to school at a Roman Catholic school in Bellville
Yeah.
for my primary school education, and my high school education was unfortunately disrupted by the 1976 riots. So I attended school in Salt River for standard 6 and 7, and thereafter was shipped off to an Indian Affairs school called Rylands High, from whence I graduated my matric year from there.
So when you grew up, what informed your vision? Did you have a dream maybe? And what were the sources of maybe inspiration into that dream?
So I think I grew up as a child quite bookish. I loved reading and I spent a lot of time reading. But the force behind me was actually my elder sister. And she was a remarkable woman in that she finished school in standard 4, yet she was an entrepreneur of note. And the amazing thing about her is she was all heart. She went out with a view of, yes, being entrepreneurial and making money, but she was a gentle and the most kindest person I have ever encountered in my life. And she set the bar very high in terms of achievement and in terms of what one can do if you set your mind to it. But it wasn't that aggression with which we often see people approach achievement. It was almost like a willingness to grow into yourself. One of the major breakthroughs through her interference, if you like, was a position became available in a company that she was a direct sales lady for. And when the position became available, I, very smart, said, I can do that job with my hands behind my back. And though I'd graduated law, I expressed this to her. When the vacancy arose, she said to me, now put your money where your mouth is. And I did. And I applied for the job. And that was the journey that took me out of law and out of the courtroom into the boardroom. So I have much to thank her for.
So she was a role model to you. And what is it that you learned from her? I assume it was informal learnings, right?
Very much informal learnings, and it was about taking things in your stride, whether it's success or whether it's failure. To always remember that you can wake up tomorrow and it will be a new day. I remember I was in standard 5 and my results had come out. And I was devastated. And my mother was a driver of note. And she was disappointed that I had come 16th out of a class of 40 people. She felt that was the height of underachievement. And my elder sister wrapped her arms around me and she said to me, look at this. You got an A for history, an A for English. You really did so well. So she made me understand that sometimes you don't achieve the overall goal. But if you're willing to see how far you've come, that is in fact a massive achievement. And to value the smaller things in life and to appreciate them and to have a grateful heart is really iconic in the way she had mentored me into the person I am today.
Now, was there a turning point in your life that informed your or changed your view on leadership?
I have to be very honest and say, yes, there was a turning point. At the point where I had divorced, I had realized that I've got to drive myself even harder, push myself even further if I want to achieve certain things in life. I had to very early on realize that if I'm going to go through life as a single woman, I only have myself to rely on, and I've got to make sure that who I rely on is reliable. And that was a major turning point.
Now, you mentioned books, that you were a bibliophile, I assume. What kind of books were you reading, and which books really stand out to you now that informed your character as a leader?
So I read mainly fiction. I was addicted to Hardy Boys, Enid Blyton's, and all of those books during my youth, in my childhood days. But I had an absolute passion for reading as I grew up, and at a very young age. Being the youngest in a household, there's an Afrikaans word for it, laat lammertjie. My siblings were at least 9 and 10 years older than I. I often had to listen to very adult conversation quite accidentally. And I was also introduced to a number of philosophers, etc., that I think very few other teenagers at my age would have been exposed to, because my brothers and sisters had cultivated that love. So I read Albert Camus and Khalil Gibran at a very young age and developed a passion for not just the philosophies, but also the poetry around it. And I think it kind of fitted in with a very romantic outlook that I had to life back then, and perhaps still now. You know, I am the eternal optimist, and I love reading and seeing movies where if you put in the effort, the outcome will be in your favor. I favor the idea of the universe rewarding you for the good deeds you do, and karma. A lot of people would say karma's a bitch. I say what you give is what you get back, and if what you're putting out there is solid and good and good intent, then I have no doubt that what you get back is as good, if not better.
So your philosophy of life informed your outlook on leadership at an early age?
At a very early age, even quite subconsciously. I don't think I was even conscious of how these things were pulling together. Another aspect of leadership, I think, that I got to understand quite early is that you don't need to know everything, and that you must trust the support structures around you. If you don't, you will find as a leader you get caught up in the detail, and you often miss the big picture. The helicopter view slips by you because you're trying too hard to get a grasp of everything. I'm not an accountant. I'm never going to be an accountant. And therefore, I must trust my financial manager. I'm not a marketing guru, but I have support staff who are superbly skilled in marketing. I must be able to evaluate and trust them. And without that trust, you're going to find yourself to be a leader who spends too much time trying to be the best marketing person and trying to be the best financial person as opposed to leading your team.
Now, can you tell us what today is driving Wahida?
I think the fact that I've come into a new industry, tourism, it's completely new to me. And the fact that there's so much opportunity in tourism for South Africa at this moment in time. I think globally we are so poised on that knife's edge of being the next biggest thing in tourism. And that belief drives me and inspires me to want to sink my teeth into tourism wholeheartedly and understand the industry, understand the challenges, and find a way to make sure that we reach that pinnacle.
Now, obviously, tourism, I believe, has now overtaken mining as a chief contributor to GDP. Why do you say that tourism could be the next big, or South African tourism could be the next big thing on the global map?
I think everybody is beginning to realize, public sector, private sector, we are looking at tourism numbers and we're saying there's a huge opportunity here. And what is that opportunity? That opportunity is to grow our SMME market, to look at our culture, our history, which is so beautiful. It is packed with so much interesting facts. It is packed with so much pain that if we just took all of that and we molded it together, we could present a picture to the world that far surpasses the bland exposure one would get if you visited any other country. We have the big five. We have our natural resources. We have an amazing history. We have a story to tell. We have so much in cuisine that we can offer the world that is so different from anywhere else. Show me where else you can eat a bunny chow.
So what you say that we have a unique visitor experience that could appeal to almost any audience worldwide.
Actually, it's a trend-setting experience. It is an experience that is so varied and so different, yet it is captured within one country. A short flight from Joburg to Cape Town will immediately show you how complex, how different each of those two major cities are. The same applies to KZN. How beautiful that is, how much of rich history there is in there, how beautiful the natural environment is. You take all of that together and you ask yourself, which country could I visit where I could have all of those experiences rolled into one?
Now, going back to your career before you went into tourism, what are the dots that you connected and what were the stages in your career journey?
Mine was actually a very strange career journey. I studied law and I was very blessed to get articles with a law firm in Paarl. My principal was a businessman, and I think that says a lot about what influenced me during that time that I was doing articles. Instead of being enraptured by the practice of law, I was looking at this man as a businessman and saying, wow, that is amazing. And so obviously that bug bit at a very early stage. So yes, the idea of law appeals and still appeals. I have a passion for conflict resolution. I believe there are many ways in which we can resolve conflict, and it will always be part of my leadership makeup is overcoming challenges, is looking at interpersonal conflict, which often harm businesses, which often deteriorate from the offering. You know, while we're squabbling about who's right or wrong, the world is passing us by. And I think, in that context, yes, I remain passionate about those things. But for me, the dots and the connection was I had amazing mentors along the way of my business journey. My first foray into business was leading a team of 300 odd women who had no education, who used direct selling as a mechanism to uplift their children. They came from the poorest communities and they made money. And I had so much regard, so much respect, and so much admiration for them that it set the tone about in business, it's not just about making money. It's how many people you can uplift along the way. And with tourism, the opportunity presents itself for us to grow our SMME market, to look at developing more around, the entrepreneurs and giving them an opportunity to offer their services. And I think that is something that I want to be part of.
So looking into the future, what would you say, what do you see for the future of leadership? What does the future of leadership mean to you?
I think the future of leadership means using our collective skills to build a South Africa that is dynamic, that is ever-changing, yet steeped in our history. The foundation must be unshakable. We must be able to be leaders in all spheres. I often find that people shy away from politics because it's a dirty business. But if nobody wants to take up those leadership roles, who do we think is going to run our country? If we are not prepared to put ourselves out there, how do we envisage we are going to build this iconic vision that Nelson Mandela had for us? We're going to fail. So I think it is about harnessing the collective skills of leaderships and entrepreneurs, NGOs, civil society, all of whom can make an impact, and using that to build a South Africa that is beautiful.
So what would you tell to aspiring leaders they should focus on to master the future of leadership?
The one thing is, I think sometimes leadership is confused with ego. And ego is all about how do I project myself into the world? How do I achieve my goals? I think if each one of us took the view of saying, yes, that is what is going to set you apart in the rat race of leadership. But what is going to make you impactful is how many people you uplifted along the way. What impact did you make on the society at large, on the world at large, whether it is advice that you've given, helping somebody along the way, giving a young entrepreneur an opportunity? Can we open our minds to those possibilities? And can we take a leaf out of other leaders and see what they've done and carry that with us? So apart from, what we're taught about strategy and direction and leadership, let your values come through. Let your heart be part of who you are.
Now, in your role as a leader, especially in the tourism industry, do you also mentor upcoming leaders? Do you have the time to mentor aspiring leaders?
I would like to think that somewhere in the future, yes. Yeah. My foray into tourism is merely 11 months long. I've still got a lot of learning to do and engagement to do before I get there. But I sincerely hope that in my journey, I have maybe touched enough lives, maybe just pushed somebody in the right direction, or given a word of advice that changes somebody's perspective. And if I have done that, I can assure you I'm going to die a very happy person.
Now, looking at the future of technology, what are there any specific technologies that you think the industry should explore or the industry should master? And maybe closer to home, which are the technologies that you're looking to increase, optimize the visitor experience?
Well, for us here at Table Mountain, I think we've spent a year on strategy, and without planting the seed of where and in which direction we should go, we have discovered that when we examine all of our surveys and all of our visitor responses, there is a need for guidance. And we have also discovered that people don't read signage. People are busy looking at their phones. They cross the road and they're looking at their phone. And what this presents for us is an amazing opportunity to produce an app that allows you to walk the mountain, to take the cable car up the mountain, to know where you must queue, to know where you must go if you want your free birthday ticket, to know what you must do in order if you've hiked up and you want a ticket down. So all of these things can be captured very beautifully in an app. And a lot of people might say, why would I as a foreigner want to download an app about in and around Table Mountain? Well, when we go to New York and we need to travel the subways, we download an app. And that gives us the power to navigate New York without stopping at every intersection and at every metro station and saying, which way do I go? And I think therein lies the opportunity to grow that app into something that helps people. There's a whole rise in, how do we accommodate people from different cultures, from different religious backgrounds. Cape Town has resoundingly sent out a message that we open our arms and our hearts to people from all sectors of life. It doesn't matter what religious background, etc. you come from. And because we've got that amazing melting pot experience, we can actually direct those individuals who have very specific needs into various directions. And I must say, I've just erred when I said Cape Town. All of South Africa has that.
Now, you've took over the helm at Cableways about a year ago. And can you share with us maybe a success story that occurred at the Cableways when it comes to leadership, maybe when it comes to the visitor experience, something that stands out in your first year?
I think what has really struck me is what an amazing group of people work at the Cableway. The kind of responses to accidents and injury are without fault. The response time in assisting visitors who are injured, and the wonderfully, overwhelmingly positive response we get from those visitors when they compliment our staff. Really, it makes my heart soar to think that here is a group of people who understand how to deal with a customer. They actually set the benchmark in terms of responding to customer needs. How quickly and swiftly they're able to assist people with disabilities, how they're able to look at the aged and say, you know what, you require shelter, let us sit you down here for a while. We are challenged with many complexities, long queues in extremely hot weather, irate customers, etc. But the way in which the staff respond to this, really, for me, it's been such a steep learning curve. And with so much gratitude and appreciation, I can say they truly make the visitor experience phenomenal. And from a leadership point of view is, how do we harness that? How do we bottle that? How do we perpetuate that? That really is the challenge for us. How do we recognize and reward that behavior? And how do we make that seep through in every aspect of wherever tourists may go, so that it's not unique to us as Table Mountain? The response that I would want the world to have when they come to South Africa is that go there, they understand how to deal with people.
So would you say there should almost be a unique South African experience?
Absolutely unique. And what it should be based on is that we know how to give that unique experience by differentiating the experience. So your particular need can be addressed. Nothing is impossible.
So in your history as a leader, what are the role models you would consider are appropriate for learning leadership, to study leadership, and maybe to also look at when harnessing leadership?
I think often one goes very far and wide to look for leadership guidance. You look at iconic figures. Maybe we should look closer to home. Maybe we should look in our value chain. How have our parents influenced us? How has our community influenced us? How have our community leaders influenced us to think and do differently? So leadership is not something one learns from books or studying the very successful entrepreneurs of the world or the very successful Nobel Prize winners of the world. Of course, studying them gives us an indication of how people can go beyond all their challenges and achieve. But all you need to do is to go down into the township and meet a woman who has encountered every single difficulty in life, but still wears the most amazing smile when she greets you. To me, that's the finer things that leadership is made of.
Now, you mentioned at an early stage you managed 300 disadvantaged women. Is there somebody in your leadership journey that stands out, that really influenced you positively?
My housekeeper. She's been with me for many, many years. She's seen my children grow up. She has nursed my sister through her illness. And eventually, when she passed on, she's still with us. She's now playing such a vital and positive role in the life of my grandson. She has the most incredibly gentle demeanor. She takes life in its stride. She's positive. And if you see her smile, it doesn't matter how bad your day is. Nick, I promise you, she will light up your life. That, to me, is what all South Africans have. And because we have it, it's innate in us. I'm saying, bring it out, bring it forth. Because that is what's going to change our society from being known as a violent society, as an aggressive society, into a peace-loving society where kindness and love and respect is what we perpetuate.
Now, where can people follow your thought leadership and how should they connect with you?
Unfortunately, I've been a little bit slow when it comes to writing and sharing views, etc. And I think perhaps it is time that I take up that role and responsibility and see how I can influence. But mostly, I like personal engagement. I really do enjoy when a young student comes to me and says, I'm planning to study law. What would you say to me? Or a researcher comes to me and says, I'm on the brink of doing this. Can I have 5 or 10 minutes of your time? I love that engagement. I love that sharing of ideas. And I love it even more when I see how these people excel. On my journey, I've had staff working for me from many years ago, whom I'm still in contact with. And it really warms my heart when I hear from them. And they tell me how they've implemented certain things in their lives. It really makes me feel very good. So I love the personal engagement and I love giving that face-to-face contact and help somebody get out of a sticky situation.
Well, Wahida, thank you so much. You truly are an inspiration. And I think as a person, your journey is inspirational. And also your vision for the industry, for the country is very inspirational. And I hope will influence many leaders. And I hope your vision will also come to fruition in the years to come. So thank you so much and hope to see you again.
Thank you, Nick. I'm very blessed to have been given this opportunity. Thank you.